For as long as people have been making sounds, other people have been copying those sounds to make their own. It's the natural progression for practically everything that we will build off what we learn from. And whilst the act of ripping off someone's song is rightly frowned upon in the music culture, the act of sampling, whereby you use only a small amount of a previous song as a building block, and then either give credit or at least get permission from the original writers, is commonplace. And since we've already explored how the Verve managed to go wrong doing this previously on the channel, today I decided to do something a little different, and rather than just tell one extended factual story, give you 8 little chunks of knowledge about 8 different songs which have used sampling as a core part of their sound. Number 1. Uma Thurman by Fall Out Boy. To kick off the video, we have a personal favourite of mine, which I didn't realise was a sample until recently, given the fact I'm a borderline Gen Zer. Uma Thurman was the 3rd single released, although 2nd in the US, from Fall Out Boy's 2015 album American Beauty, American Psycho. The song, named after star of Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill, Uma Thurman, bases large amounts of its melody around a sample from the theme song to the classic TV show The Munsters, which was released in 1964 and ran for 70 episodes. The band had written most of the music around the sample before they came up with any of the lyrics. Bassist and lyricist Pete Wentz has said in interviews that when they played people the mix they had created with the sample, they got the feedback, "Oh cool, sounds like Quentin Tarantino, cool." And so the band decided, why not run with it, and created an entire world for the song around this feedback. Using the famous dancing scene from Pulp Fiction between Uma Thurman and John Travolta as inspiration, the band contacted Thurman, asking if she was happy for them to use her name in a song, which evidently she was, and has since gone on record in interviews saying how sweet it was of them. Number 2. Sing for the Moment by Eminem. At number 2, we have a sample more people is probably aware of, which will likely lead to splitting viewpoints as to which song people think is more famous. The 4th single released from Mather's 4th studio album The Eminem Show, Sing for the Moment reached number 10 in 20 different countries. The song acts as Mazza's response to the media labelling him as dangerous for use and targets the parents who shelter their kids supposedly for their protection whilst having no regard for the child's actual wants. It features impassioned rapping throughout the verses, which leads on to the chorus, which itself is a sample from the hugely successful Aerosmith classic Dream On. The song contains a guitar solo at the end, also sampled from Dream On. This is not Aerosmith's first foray into the world of lending their music to the hip-hop genre, having famously reached number 4 for their collaboration with Run DMC on Walk This Way, a higher chart placing than the original release of the song in 1976 achieved. Sing for the Moment's addressing of the media's misinterpretations about rap music's effect on society rings true with rock music as well, as back when Dream On was released, most of the media's attacks were towards its impacts, and so the combination of the two works perfectly to show that music is brilliant, not damaging. Number 3. SOS by Rihanna. The first single from Rihanna's 2nd studio album, SOS is an infectious dance song which manages to build a sample into the core of its melody without overtly throwing it into your face. The song samples the cover of Tainted Love by English synth duo Soft Cell, which was originally recorded by Gloria Jones in 1964. SOS is not the only song to have sampled the Soft Cell tune, but it's arguably the best use of the sample. Instead of just ripping the melody from the original and placing it into its own mix, SOS builds much more on Tainted Love, and critics have lauded it for it. Number 4. Paper Planes by MIA. Despite being released as a single in February 2008, Paper Planes, written and recorded by British hip-hop artist MIA, managed to become the sound of the summer for that year and many to come. The song's lyrics were inspired by the writer's own problems obtaining a visa to work in the US. It does this by satirising the American perceptions of immigrants. Its infectious hook is one of the key reasons for the song becoming so successful, reaching number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. An incredible feat for any British artist, never mind one who was yet to make much of a scratch on the British mainstream. This hook is a sample from the song Straight to Hell by The Clash. A single from their 5th studio album, Combat Rock. The song itself is much more experimental than the more famous Clash songs, and so unless you're a big fan of classic rock, you probably didn't even know this is where the sample came from. And whilst this sample is iconic, MIA still worked her magic to create a brilliant song which, like SOS, builds on its sample rather than just copying and pasting it. Number 5. California Love by Tupac featuring Dr. Dre and Roger Troutman. The genre of hip-hop is where sampling is most prominent, with many artists taking samples from previous works and adding a modern twist to them with the hip-hop flair. California Love was the first single released after Shakur was signed to Death Row Records. It was one of 2 songs produced by Dr. Dre for his album All Eyes on Me. There have been several different remixes of California Love, however the original and most famous version contains a sample from the Joe Cocker song Woman to Woman, released in 1972. The infectious chorus from California Love was sung by Roger Troutman using a talkbox and was taken from the 1982 song West Coast Pop Lock by Ronnie Hudson and the Street People, making California Love the first song on our list featuring multiple samples. To top it off, Troutman also interpolates a chant he used on the Zapp single Dance Floor with the Shake It Baby hook. Interpolating though is where instead of directly sampling from the original piece, you re-record it, however otherwise it is used identically to a sample. Number 6. Whole Lotta Love by Led Zeppelin. Now so far, we've had multiple examples of modern songs sampling classic rock, but as I said in the intro, as long as people have been making sounds, other people have been sampling them. So I don't want you to think that all these classic rock songs were completely original themselves. Whole Lotta Love is the opening track from the band's second album, inventively titled Led Zeppelin 2. It was a hit single in the US, however was not released as a single in the UK. Most Zeppelin songs weren't, as when they didn't require the singles to gain them notoriety, they believed their music was designed to be experienced as an album, and singles didn't do their songwriting justice. This is the first instance on this list of a sampling which wasn't originally credited as such. Whilst Page's iconic riff is original, Plank copied both the words and manner of singing them from the 1962 Muddy Waters record You Need Love, although it's thought Plant actually based his copying on the Small Faces cover, which changed up some of the words titled You Need Loving.
You need cooling, baby, I'm not fooling. I'm fooling. Hey woman, you need cooling.
The case was settled out of court in 1985, with Willie Dixon, the lyricist for Muddy Waters, getting a songwriting credit on subsequent releases. Number 7. Iron Sky by Paolo Nutini. For the penultimate spot on this list, we turn to a brilliant song which uses an amazing and inventive sample. So far, we've had samples of rock songs, synth pop, and even a TV theme, but one of my favourite samples is taken directly from a movie. The song is Iron Sky, which comes from Nutini's third album, Caustic Love, and was later released as a single, reaching number 42 in the UK charts. It is a slow-burning song which creates a soundscape through its brilliant blend of backing music and Nutini's own soulful vocals. About 3.5 minutes into the 6-minute epic, the song begins to lull, leading into one of the most brilliant bridges in music history. An audio excerpt from Charlie Chaplin's incredible speech in the 1940 classic, The Great Dictator. And seriously, if you've never seen this speech, it's linked in the description. Treat yourself and watch it. The speech is backed by the bassline hook from the song and temptuously builds to a crescendo of both music and speech.
You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Let us use that power. Let us all unite and all rise.
It's a magnificent use of sampling, which might just be my favourite, although it has strong competition from... Number 8. Because by the Beatles. Now, as a huge Beatles fan, I was always going to find a way to include them on this list. As one of the greatest and most influential bands of all time, it was inevitable that many people would sample them. Notably, What I Got by Sublime sampling the piano from Lady Madonna, Beastie Boys sampling several songs at once in The Sounds of Science, or even Lennon sampling himself from Strawberry Fields Forever in Glass Onion on the White Album. But no. For the last entry in the list, I thought it would be more interesting to look at who 2 of the greatest songwriters of all time respected enough to sample. There were a few notable examples, but my favourite comes from Because, a beautiful track from the second side of Abbey Road, which comes just before the medley, which in itself may be a story for another day. The story goes that John was laid in bed one day whilst Yoko was sat playing idly at the piano. Eventually John heard Yoko play something that he loved, Not being particularly versed in classical music, he didn't know what the song was, but asked Yoko if she could play the chords backwards, and she obliged. The song was Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven, and with some slight studio tinkering, those reverse chords were interpolated to create the intro for Because. And that's it for today. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what you think of this new style. Are you a fan of the inclusion of several mini facts split over a list? Or do you prefer the videos all based around the explaining of one long fact? If this video goes down well, we'll likely mix up both for future instalments, so your feedback is key. Remember to like and subscribe, and comment what your favourite use of sampling is. And otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.